He was 8 years old when the world took his father away. And from that morning forward, he would spend the rest of his life trying to answer a question nobody should have to carry. How do you become yourself when the entire world only sees someone else when they look at you? Brandon Lee never found the complete answer. He came closer than anyone knew. And then, on a film set in Wilmington, North Carolina, on the night of March 31st, 1993, the question ran out of time. Los Angeles, 1973. Brandon Lee was 8 years old when Bruce Lee died. A fact so simple and so devastating that it tends to get absorbed into the legend without anyone fully stopping to consider what it actually meant. His father was not a fading career or a distant memory. Bruce Lee died at the moment of his greatest visibility, weeks before Enter the Dragon was released, at the exact point where his name was becoming something the entire world was about to recognize. For Brandon, growing up in the aftermath of that death meant growing up inside something that wouldn't hold still. The legend kept growing after the man was gone, and Brandon had to grow up alongside it, shaped by an absence that the rest of the world kept filling with its own version of who his father had been. He was kicked out of 2 high schools. He told a magazine in 1992 that he had always had a pretty good knack for raising hell. People who knew him from those years described a young man with genuine intelligence and genuine anger. Someone who understood exactly what people wanted from him and refused to give it to them. Not because he didn't love his father, but because he was trying, through that refusal, to locate something that was actually his own. The shadow was too large, too complete. There was no part of his life that didn't pass through it, but there was something deeper going on. Something most people never saw. Brandon told a journalist from Black Belt magazine something that revealed what was actually happening underneath the rebellion. He said that when he was younger, it had been a real problem in his own head. Not the comparisons, not the expectations from the outside, but the questions he asked himself about whether anyone who approached him actually wanted him for himself, or whether they were only ever interested in getting close to the ghost of his father. That was the wound that never fully closed. Not resentment of Bruce Lee, but a quiet, persistent uncertainty about whether Brandon Lee, as a separate human being with his own fears and gifts and failures, was visible to anyone at all. He chose acting over martial arts deliberately, not because he lacked his father's physical ability. He had trained under Bruce Lee as a small child before the death, and the muscle memory of those early sessions stayed with him throughout his life. He chose acting because it was territory his father hadn't claimed, a space where comparison was at least slightly less automatic, where he might be measured by something other than how closely he resembled a man the world had decided was irreplaceable. The comparisons came anyway. They always did. His first starring role in Rapid Fire in 1992 was the turning point, the moment where something began to shift. Shannon Lee, who served as his assistant on the film, later described watching her brother start to feel, for the first time, that he might be finding his way to the other side of the shadow. The film performed well enough to confirm what people who worked alongside Brandon had believed for years. He was genuinely talented as an actor, not talented in spite of his name or because of it, but talented in ways that had nothing to do with either. He was funny. He was warm. He could hold a frame in ways the camera responded to independently of any association with his father's legacy. Then came The Crow. Brandon read the script for The Crow and fought for the role with a conviction that surprised even people close to him. The story was about a man who returns from the dead to finish what his life had left incomplete. A character defined by loss, by love that outlasted death, by the determination to exist fully in whatever time remained. The people who worked with him on the film describe an actor who had found something in that material that went beyond performance. Jeff Most, a producer on the film, said publicly that Brandon's notes on the script were brilliant, that the cast and crew tailored much of the world of the film to Brandon's vision. He was having the time of his life. By every account from every person on that set, he was becoming, in those weeks of filming, exactly the version of himself he had spent his entire life trying to locate. On the night of March 31st, 1993, a prop gun fired a bullet that should not have been there. Brandon Lee was 28 years old. He died before the film was finished. Editors completed The Crow using existing footage and CGI, and it was released in May 1994 to enormous critical and commercial success. Audiences saw exactly what people on the set had seen, an actor who had arrived at something true. The performance was widely considered the finest of his career. It arrived, like Enter the Dragon had for his father, only after he was gone. Shannon Lee spoke about her brother in a CNN interview published on the 30th anniversary of his death. She said that his fearlessness and his sense of adventure and his creativity and his desire for growth all came from the time he had spent with their father. She said their father had been Brandon's hero. The relationship between those two sentences, the debt to the father and the struggle to escape the father's shadow, captures something about Brandon Lee's life that no single story can fully hold. He loved Bruce Lee. He was shaped by Bruce Lee. He spent most of his adult life trying to exist somewhere that Bruce Lee's name didn't define him. And in the end, the film that finally let him do that was the film that killed him. He told Jason Scott Lee, who played Bruce Lee in the 1993 biographical film Dragon, not to be taken in by the legend, to perceive his father as a man who had failures, passions, sorrows, and all the conflicts of being a human being. It was the most honest thing he ever said publicly about what it had cost him to be Bruce Lee's son. Not the public burden of comparison, the private burden of loving someone the world had turned into a symbol, of knowing the man underneath the legend with the helpless intimacy of a child, and spending the rest of your life watching that knowledge get crowded out by everything the world preferred to believe instead. The question Brandon Lee spent his whole life trying to answer was never really about his father. It was about whether the world had enough room for both of them. He came closer than anyone recognized to proving it did. He ran out of time on a film set at 28, in the middle of the most alive he had ever been. That is the real story, not the shadow, the man who was almost free of it.